do you think that is?
Well, I just think the world is smaller. I think traveling is easier, and in our case, I'm obviously going to be a little bit biased, but we have a great product to sell, and our coaching staff and the people that surround our student athletes are really high caliber professionals with a super high care factor, and I think people feel that. I think they see the investment in the student athlete when they see the facilities and the resources that we have. And they also see the trajectory of the program. You know, we have a lot of momentum going on right now. They see the types of players and athletes that we're signing, the caliber of people that we're signing. And I think a lot of people want to be a part of that. But I think around the country in general, I think you see a lot of movement and you see a lot of out-of-state signings because of the fact that it's just easier to travel now. And I think the cost of attendance alleviates a lot of the things that usually hindered guys leaving the state.
Do you feel that the local schools have fallen on hard times? Do you feel like it's opened up the region for more people coming here?
I think the local schools are great schools and great programs, and I just think that, again, the whole traveling part of it has become just a lot easier, and I really believe that's what's going on. And you know, you never saw that back in the day, right? Back in the day, it was like everyone stayed home and whatnot, but it's just different times, and you know, it might be a phase, it might not be, but I think that's what's transpiring. I don't know if I'm confident anybody until the very last minute. I think obviously we're blessed to have him, and I've said this a few times, and I really mean it. It's the most impressive part about Kayvon is not the 5 stars that sit beside his name. It's his 5-star attitude and work ethic. Now, in terms of his recruitment, was I sure? You know, even when he made his announcement and I saw all those people sitting there in crimson, I was like, I don't know, that's not a good look for us right now. But we felt strongly that he had a great experience at Oregon. We felt extremely good about the fact that he connected with us on a personal level as well as, you know, his opportunity level. And so it was, I'd hate to say yes and no, but it was somewhere in the middle.
Expectations are definitely high. What kind of expectations do you have for him, even early on?
Well, I think guys like him and guys like, I mean, I could go on and on about, you know, guys like Mace Funa, you know, Micah Pittman, Mikael Wright, Keon. I mean, it goes on and on and on. You know, Sean Dollars. All these guys, they're really talented guys, and we expect these guys to be contributors, and we expect them to contribute quickly. They've played at high levels. They've had extraordinary coaching at the high school level. There's a lot of pride. I mean, we love Southern Cal football. I mean, absolutely love it. The entire state of California, just phenomenal football and great coaching. And so that's why we're so heavily invested in the area.
What was your immediate
You know,
reaction?
Jonah's another one. You know, there's another guy that, I mean, sorry about that. There's a lot.
I was going to ask your immediate reaction to being picked atop the Pac-12 North and kind of how you handle those expectations internally.
Well, I think the expectations inside never really change. I think you always acknowledge what, you know, the noise is on the outside. When I say no, I say that respectably, you know, because I certainly respect the media and the choices and decisions made, but it never really factors into the process. It never really factors into anything that relates to our preparation. I think our guys have understood pretty clearly that when we prepare well and when we are completely focused and dialed in what we're doing, we're pretty good. And when we don't play very good. And we have a very challenging schedule, and we have a lot of challenges on the road, and it's something that we know we have to improve upon because we haven't done a very good job. And it starts with me. It starts with coaching. We've got to make sure that we are prepared mentally and have a mindset that's a different level. You know, help enhance the DNA. So again, it's even though it's something that's always a compliment, and we respect the fact and appreciate that fact, it doesn't factor into our preparation.
You mentioned the road struggles a little bit. Have you had any kind of soul searching about what kind of measures you can take to correct that, and kind of what's that process been?
Yeah, you know, I think the process is really, it's taken its course and it's gone fairly well. You know, 2 years ago, the struggles on the road were monumental. I mean, they're double-digit defeats and absolutely no chance at winning, to last year winning 3 of them, but still having difficulties in other ones. And now understanding that, you know what, as this thing gets harder and you get deeper into it, especially when it goes into conference play on the road, is that the level of attention to detail and the shutting out of the outside world has to be at a level where nothing There is no distraction. There is nothing that could derail you from your mindset and your approach to the game. So as much as we've done a lot of mindset training in the offseason, sports psychology, we've changed the setting on our guys and are going to do different things during camp to help enhance that experience and make our guys feel comfortable in uncomfortable settings.
Mario,
You've been
the starting O-line is down 38 pounds this offseason, and these are accomplished players. But then you have backups like Solid, who's down even more. He's down like 70 pounds in 7 months. And Panay is down 20. What was the point of emphasis, particularly the starters, to be down?
I think Panay might be down in moon pounds. I don't know if it's like in earth pounds. He's down. He weighed today, I think it was 334. He played mostly at 342 to 348 in that range. Solid came in at 380, so we had to get him down. We felt that now his body fat is at a level we could build him back up, and his playing weight's probably 328, 330. But most of the guys have hit their target weight. Some of the bigger guys that were more, I wouldn't say that they're a project, but their weights, their body weights and body comps were projects. We've done an extraordinary amount of work just changing their body comp so we can build them to their optimal playing weight. You know, we treat them like prize fighters. Guys fight their best at a certain weight. We've identified that weight. We did the reducing part of it, and now we start to climb back up.
Those are the guys who are down. Then Patrick Herbert is up like 20 since spring, and then you have freshmen arrive a lot higher than they were ranked as recruits. I'm sure none of them was a surprise, but Dorless up like 20-something, Bridges up 20-something. What does that mean that freshmen who are able to put on weight, whether they were on campus or not, get a chance to play quickly?
Yeah, you got to eat at our training table. I think you'll get a good feel for what happens in there now. When they start walking out with that cedar plank salmon, you know, and all those other goodies that they come with it. At the same time, a lot of these guys in high school, they eat once, maybe twice a day. Their breakfast is a bag of chips and a glass of Gatorade. Now they're eating 4, 5, 6 times a day, including all their shakes and their snacks and everything else. So it's a big change for them, and you combine that with the type of strength conditioning program that we have, and you're going to see some pretty immediate results.
You've been out here for a couple of years now, getting comfortable. What are the differences between the Pac-12 and, say, the SEC and the ACC?
I think there's a lot of similarities in a lot of different areas. There really is, especially the level of competition at the skill positions, offensive line play. Quarterbacks are extraordinary out in this part of the country. I think as it relates to, it's reflected in the draft, you've seen probably more defensive linemen drafted out of, maybe the southern part of the country and east of the Mississippi, but there's a lot of similarity. I know that there's always conversation about which conference is the best, this and that. I think what you're going to see, especially with the enhanced recruiting, with the amount of some of the coaching changes that you've seen, that the Pac-12 is going to show out and going to show out really, really well. So I see more similarities than I see differences.
Do you see any cultural differences as far as the approach?
Well, all I can speak about is our culture, and we brought over a blueprint that's pretty demanding now. It'll test you, it'll push you, and you wondered how that was going to be accepted, whether it was going to be taken in or whatnot, because culture is a word that's overused, right? Everybody's culture. Well, we really like to think that within the walls of our place it means the world, and that there has to be an intolerance for anything that doesn't support or uphold the culture. So our guys have been accepting, they've been phenomenal with it, and they've enhanced it because they enforce the principles and values of it.
Coach, you took your staff to Alabama. What did you feel the takeaway that you staff got from that experience?
Well, the first thing is, since the blueprint is very similar, is watching the practice regimen and not only how it's structured, but how it's run. A lot of the drills are too spotted, so that you really have to spread out your coaches and you have to assign certain sets of eyes to certain parts so that the eye discipline and the coordination of practice is on point. Just because the tempo is extremely fast, it doesn't slow down. I thought in meeting with their coaches and sharing ideas with them from the season and from other schematic challenges that both have faced or are facing, where it was very positive as well. I thought having our coaches look at their players and see where they are in their developmental process, as opposed to where our guys are at, to see, hey, where are we and where do we feel we have to continue improvement. So a lot was gained out of it, and obviously those are familiar faces, so it was good to see some folks that I hadn't seen in a little while.
How does that translate to your team when they know that your coach is willing to go to Alabama, bring back some of the stuff?
Right.
Is that an inspiration for them to say, hey, we're doing some of the stuff that Alabama does?
Well, I think the inspiration is more in the fact that we're always telling players, hey, lift, get bigger, get stronger, get better. Well, what are you doing as a coach, right? Are you sitting in your office just pointing fingers and directing, or are you doing it yourself? So we did spend an extraordinary amount of time visiting different places and had people come in and visit to anything that could help us, anything that could help us gain an edge in any part of our schematics, our culture, our discipline, our regimen, the way we travel, the way we eat, the way we sleep, the amount of hours we sleep. I mean, you name it, we take a snapshot of the entire program and we assess everything to see if it's good enough. And if it's not, then we try to find a way to enhance it.
Since you've taken over, pretty much from day one, you've been talking about building not only for the next season, but 2, 3, 4 years down the road, especially with recruiting. Does having so many players back this year, especially on offense, does that accelerate kind of the window that you guys were initially kind of planning for when you were building this program?
Well, I think the challenging part was that the classes weren't staggered in an ideal way. You know, last year we played with 72 scholarship players. That's really low. You know, we signed 3 graduate transfers at the end to get us to 75. That's still 10 under. Those are depth issues. Those are practice issues. You don't have the quality of scout teams that you want. It really hurts you, you know. So what I think now, you know, if at the end of this cycle, you know, it ends up being about 50 players or whatnot, whatever, however many we sign to get to whatever number we get to, it with this kind of leadership and the caliber of freshmen that we sign, I think it's an awesome combination to have guys like Justin Herbert, guys like Troy Dye, guys like Jordan Scott, Austin Falu, guys like our offensive linemen, teaching these guys what the expectation is, knowing that their turn is coming up. And the best thing we can do is have those young guys watch our older guys do it the right way, exactly like we want them to do it, how we want it done, to the level that we want it done to. I think that is invaluable. That's more valuable than the talent itself.
You don't have a ton of major position battles, Mario, for starters, but I think the most significant on the offense would be the Brady versus Dallas competition, but they're not the same position. From your perspective, from the end of spring, what you've heard in the offseason workouts, where do they stand on that? Because I mean, what Alex had said at the end of spring was, you know, Brock doesn't have to be a tackle, which makes it sound like Brady was ahead, but where are things?
Well, I think it's more than that too. I think you got to throw in Stephen Jones in the mix. I think you have to throw in a guy like Alex Forsythe in the mix as well, because they've done really well. I mean, they have shown that they can play football. And, you know, our offensive line took a lot of snaps over the last 2 seasons, and you'd like to have 8 guys that can play, and we're at that level now. So, but Brady has proven that he can do it. Throck has proven he could do it anywhere. He's a Swiss Army guy, right? Center, guard, tackle, he's done it all. So we're going to let that thing play out and give them all a fair opportunity, because they deserve that. However it works out, they're all going to play.
There are over 400 high school freshmen in this offers, 58th graders. What's kind of your philosophy? Is it ever too early? Is it dangerous, or how do you kind of handle that?
You know, it's all subjective as opposed to objective. I can say this: if we're aggressive, and we're not going to stop being aggressive. If we feel strongly about somebody and we feel they can help us win championships and they're good people, we're gonna go. We're gonna make a move, and we don't shy away from that. People have different philosophies, and more power to them. And you know, God bless them. That's just our philosophy. I trust our eyes, and when we see it and the background check matches up, because you do have to save yourself from yourself sometimes, right? Great film, great player. Oh man, not doing the right things. Yeah, you should probably hold back. But if it matches up, what are we going to wait for? For the next team to offer him first? You know, so to each his own. That's just you'd like to identify your guys so you can get their process rolling as soon as it's warranted.
A lot of recruits rave about the intensity and the energy of your staff whenever they get on campus. Is that by design, or have you just built a staff that is super energetic?
No, I think that's what we are. If it wasn't natural and genuine, it wouldn't work. You know, we are what we are, and we are what we are 24/7. You know, we don't put on a recruiting shirt and change what we are, and have a happy glass of water and go get it. You know, we brought in high energy, high octane, passionate coaches that have a super high level of expertise, because the ability to connect is extremely important to us. I mean, what would you like for your son, right? You'd like your son to be around a high level of expertise guy that knows what he's doing, that has a super high care factor, that's going to bring it every single day. I mean, bring it. And so we just believe that you can't separate. You bring it for practice, but you kind of let your foot off the gas for recruiting, and you let your foot off the gas for, if you're recruiting, if you're playing checkers, if you're playing football, bring it.
There's been a trend in photo shoots and taking photos of the uniform and the helmet. You guys have really embraced that. How big of a part is that to the on-campus experience?
I think it's a fun thing. I don't know if it's a deal breaker, but it's certainly fun. I think the coaches have more fun than the players do. I mean, Coach Feld is on more photo shoots than any of our prospects probably, but I think our guys enjoy it. I think it's kind of neat. Sometimes the families are around and have a chance to take some family pictures, but it does create a memory, and a memory is always important in recruiting, right? Especially as the year goes on longer and longer, you'd like something to remind someone of, hey, that was a really special experience.
About 10 days away from the start of fall camp, is there any way you can rule out for at least the beginning?
The only one I would say is Justin Collins, just because he's still rehabbing, but he's close. I know we'll have him for the season. I would hate to say on this particular date, but everybody else is good to go. We've been very fortunate. Strong off-season, really strong off-season. Our strength and conditioning numbers have gone up, but this is the year that you've been really working towards, right? 18 months means 2 entire off-seasons in the weight room, and 2 entire off-season and fourth quarter programs with your strength and conditioning staff and your football staff running it. So the numbers and the results of this year are significantly different than year one, where you're kind of setting the base, setting the foundation. So that's exciting. But again, the accountability factor in the locker room is extremely high, and it's directed and guided by those guys over there.
You had one of the highest rated recruiting classes this past year, which means you have a lot of highly rated football players. Are there 1 or 2 guys that maybe were underrated that you're looking forward to seeing?
Gosh, I think so. I think there's a lot. There wasn't a guy that we signed that we didn't feel could make some kind of an impact and help this year. So, where do I start there? I mean, there's 27 signees. If I name one, the other 26 are going to be upset, right? So, but no, I just thought that the importance of recruiting California and Southern Cal led, almost was like a fire starter, and really ended up leading to an excellent recruiting class. But I could answer that question probably in about 14 days. I feel pretty good about it. By 14 days, I'll send you a nice little.
What have you been seeing from Mikhail Wright, one of those high-profile recruits you brought in?
Oh, yeah, he's special now. He's as explosive, and his body quick. His foot and body quickness, his balance and body control are off the charts. Natural ball skills. I mean, he tracks the ball extremely well. Very explosive. He's specialist well, returns kicks, returns punts. Very quiet. Quiet, but he's a jokester too. He likes joking around. Great family. Certainly a guy that was a huge piece of the recruiting class, one of the best corners in the country. And after just watching him move around and practice with us, rightfully so, he's going to have a tremendous impact this year.
All right. I know you can't speak about what happened during 2016 because you weren't here, but that time Troy and a couple other guys that were younger stepped up and said the culture wasn't right with the program. How has it changed since you showed up after that season till now?
Well, I think the first thing is to say that, you know what, it may not have been right, but we like to turn the focus to all the right things that happened before that, and even maybe some of the positive things that happened that year, because when you come into a place, I really believe this. I've seen it from all ends, man. When you come into a place, you respect those that came before you. There's nothing worse than hearing, right, someone coming throwing someone else under the bus. That's horrible. So I think our players, we gain more and more of an understanding of the great tradition of Oregon. And I had to be educated upon it, right? Where am I from? I'm from the other side of the world, right? I mean, one good boat ride, and I'm in Cuba, right? So I'm on the other side. I had to learn all this stuff. And so because of all that, I've been educated. The players have been educated. We've had so many former players come in, meet, speak with our guys, that they understand, like, this thing was strong for a long, long time. And Troy and Justin came to Oregon because of that strength. And so when they were presented with this culture and with this regimen, because I can be difficult. I can be a little bit difficult. It was demanding, and I was like, man, how's this going to be taken in? Is it going to be accepted. And not only did they accept it, they enforced it, they enhanced it. So we really believe that's been the ultimate difference in our football team, and we believe it'll be a key factor in our success going forward.
How do you correct the drops, the wide receiver drops? I know that was a little bit of an issue out there.
Yes.
It must have been frustrating for the quarterback, but
Yes.
I mean, do you make them carry around the football for a whole week? I mean, what do you do to?
You saw the movie The Program. Okay. Well, we had I think it was 50 plus drops, and which I think led the country. And honestly, I blame myself. I blame us as coaches. We should have done a better job teaching it, because catching the football is still a technique. It's a fundamental, and we could enhance that if we teach it the right way. Now, that being said, we have our new wide receiver coach, Coach Bo, does a great job. He has enhanced our technique and our ability to catch the football. We reduced the number of drops by almost 80% during spring ball. That also goes with the fact that alignment and assignment, and then all these new guys that we have signed, have really upped the level of competition in that room. And my old coach way down south used to have us in a team all together, used to say, I know what'll fix this. Competition will fix this. You know, when the guy behind you is chomping at the bit and nipping at your heels, you know, in an attempt to push for that playing time, everybody's sense of urgency elevates. And we've introduced competition the right kind of way. The level of urgency and attention to detail has elevated, and we've had tremendous improvement in the spring, and we have to carry it over and improve in the fall as well. But you're right, it is something that has to improve, and it starts with technique and fundamentals, and then it spills over to alignment and assignment.
Mario, in that vein about the receivers, and not a knock on Jalen and Brendan, but they are both converted defensive backs by trade. With that said, can Josh and Micah push either of them in fall camp for a starting job for that opener?
Those guys
put a
can
true
push.
freshman in that spot against that secondary and Kevin Steele and everything in that first week.
Those guys can push, and they can push the entire year, not only for the opening game, without a doubt. Josh, Micah, both those guys proved, Jawan, they all proved that they can play. Brendan Schooler had a phenomenal spring. You know, Johnny Johnson had a really good spring as well. Jalen, all those guys have stepped up, and I really believe this. Those guys have done a good job taking it upon themselves to better the culture in the wide receiver room. And a lot of that goes with Coach Bo and a couple guys that we have hired as analysts, and with Prince of Skill and our GA and Jonathan Krause. Those guys, they have really good relationships with our players. So the combination of all those things, they know it has to be better, and it has to change. For us to be successful with that quarterback back there, it is probably the most important thing we do on the offensive side.
USC's back on the schedule this year for you guys. Can you talk about the stress that the air raid offense puts on the defense? And you'll be facing it twice now this year.
Well, it's obviously it's a very challenging offense, and I think when you think of USC and the caliber of athletes that they have, obviously they not only are they talented, you know, they're a well-coached football team, and with a schematic change like that, you know, it potentially presents a lot of problems, you know, and certainly I know they have a really strong front seven returning, some really talented defensive players, so we know they're a really good football team.
How much does a healthy Cam McCormick change that tight end position and just what you can do offensively?
Drastically. I mean, that position, when that position is an effective blocker as well as a receiver, it changes your entire offense. Living with open edges isn't exactly our world. Some people do great in it and they specialize in it. We prefer to have the ability to do both, go open edge and also use a tight end. So a healthy Cam McCormick with a Jake Whelan weighing 251 pounds now, it lends to us having better success in the tight end position.
You said competition was best. Is that a position that Cam, you said competition was best. Cam started here last year. Does he assume that role again, or does he got to earn it back?
Oh, I think we're going to open that up. To me, you know how we start ball? We start not with a depth chart, we start with an organizational chart. That's how we do it. You know, this is how we're going to practice, and you guys go win those jobs. In terms of depth, don't talk about depth till the day before the game. That's when we'll settle depth. You know.
Coach.